Hello everyone and welcome to our channel Doom Productions. We make feature films and videos about films and filmmaking. And today we are sitting down to talk about times when we improved exponentially at a certain moment. Moments in our lifetimes when we found ourselves, we learned a trick or an idea or something that just made filmmaking click even more for us. Something that we felt sped up our process and how we make movies in general, which is kind of a vague notion, kind of something weird, but I think, every now and then filmmaking is, will give you these gifts of, these moments of clarity or realization, whereas it's normally lots of hard work.
Yeah.
Lots of just dedication, chipping away at the block every single day, a lot of tedious work. That's what filmmaking feels like a lot. But every now and then, you like lightning strikes, and you get hit with something, an idea or a revelation, or whatever you want to call it. I guess, simply put, these are days when we've learned something that we'll never forget, and change the way we make movies. You go first. Tell me, what was a moment or a day that you learn something that you'll take with you for the rest of your filmmaking career?
Yeah. I made a feature film last year. It was called House. Some of the viewers may have watched this movie.
2 years ago, technically.
2 years ago.
In 2020. It does feel like
it feels like it's been no time at all. We're hedging on a year and a half. We're in 2 calendar years now. In 2020, I made a feature film called House, which some of the viewers may be familiar with. And up to that point, I had never made a feature film on my own. I'd never written a feature film script. We had only made one feature film up to that point. It had been years earlier.
Right after high school.
Right after high school. And so I was kind of used to a very specific way of how we worked. We were a bit more compartmentalized in how we operated. So it was my first time kind of diving into the director's chair. And I felt kind of like lost because that whole summer leading up to when House was made, I had made or attempted to make 2 other projects, 2 other feature films. One of which I was trying to script. I was trying really hard to lean into like high production value or as much as I could on my own, because that was kind of the challenge we'd put on ourselves, was to make something by ourselves. And both the 2 projects that I made before House, just I couldn't wrap my head around it. They just weren't clicking the way I wanted them to. They weren't right. I kind of burned out on those ideas pretty quickly. And I kind of got to this deadline of I need to make something, but I didn't know what. So I kind of was thinking back on just like things I could pull from that I knew. And there was this book that I was kind of reading at the time called House of Leaves. And I kind of realized how simple the premise was, where it's very like boiled down, not complicated, gets to what it's trying to do. And it just is what it is very quickly. It doesn't like explain itself for like a need to justify itself. And so I kind of realized I was putting all this work and effort into making this perfectly polished thing. But once I kind of realized I just need to let go of all that, this is a long-winded way to get to this point, I know.
You're setting the story. You're setting the story, setting the movie.
What I realized and what kind of catapulted me into making me feel like I made a successful movie, which was House, was I was able to just simplify the story and let it be what it was. And I guess a better way of stating that is I just let the story be what it was and didn't try and overcomplicate it. And I think something that also tripped me up was in film school, I was kind of told that I needed to justify everything or know why everything was happening. And to a certain extent, I agree. I think as a director, you should have an idea of what's going on. But in House in particular, I kind of let myself not know all the answers to the movie. And I think that let me have more fun with the idea. So not being beholden to a script or a story kind of let me run free and make this sandbox of a movie. And do I think that's the right answer for every project? No. But I think as a filmmaker, having fun with the thing you're making is really important. And up to that point, I wasn't having fun. I was making a product. And House let me make something fun and walk out of that also being very proud of the thing I made.
Yeah.
So that's a very big story. And there were other things I learned in that too, but that was kind of the thing that kind of brought me through into how I make movies now, I think, a little bit more.
It's the thing that kicked open the doors for you,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
all that, and kind of made filmmaking click in a way it didn't before.
Yeah.
For me, it goes back to, I mean, it's two separate moments, kind of in a way, but it's really the same. The first one was I used to work at this place called the Northwest Film Center. They teach classes, they rent gear, all that sort of thing. And a friend of mine was teaching a cinematography class for high schoolers. And I was in this class as the assistant kind of teacher. And he was talking about aspect ratio, which if you know our stuff, we're a huge fan of playing with aspect ratio.
But this was before that.
This was before that. And in this class, he was talking about, there's 16:9, there is 2:3:9, there's, all these different aspect ratios. And one of the students goes, could you do a, circle aspect ratio? And my friend Andrew was like, actually, yeah, you could. Technically, you could have a circle aspect ratio for your movie if you want to do that for your final project. And for me, that really blew the doors open in a big way, because I was like, wait a minute, how come no one's done that before? Now, I think someone has done that.
It definitely.
I think there was, a feature film that was released at a few festivals a while ago, maybe 5 years ago, so that had that circle aspect ratio. But I was like, wait, I've never seen that before. Why doesn't someone do that?
Yeah.
Why can't I do that? And so that little seed of an idea blossomed into something called The Gospel. That's an experimental film we did. That was my last film I ever did in film school, was The Gospel. It's on our channel still. And in it, it predominantly uses a circle aspect ratio, but it also goes between circle aspect ratio and 16:9 throughout the whole thing. There's kind of a weird play with aspect ratio in that movie. Probably even more extreme than we do now. And I've played with aspect ratio in Doom on the Doorstep and the different versions of that. Oh Brother. Every single feature film that I've made has played with aspect ratio to some extent. And for me, what I realized that aspect ratio is a whole nother tool that filmmakers can use and play with. Aspect ratio is this kind of untouched thing where people think that you need to keep it the same. In that way, you focus on the story, which to an extent I agree. I think that, it's always good if you want to make a film that is story driven. I would probably oppose, using aspect ratio. But as someone who kind of subscribes to the idea that, film isn't just story, there's greater importance in film than the story. Aspect ratio made me look at film in a whole new way, or, gave me the tools to do that and to create films that weren't just about, a story, or weren't just about, sticking to the conventions. It was like, oh, this is a whole new tool for me to use. I can play with this. My films started to look way more interesting, way more dynamic. They stood out among other people's films because, I mean, not to toot our own horn, but are there any other people that you can think of that play with aspect ratio as much as we do? Now, they do exist,
Absolutely.
I'm sure, but they are few and far between.
The aspect ratio gang is a tight-knit
I know,
community.
we all know each other. In terms of big people,
Yeah.
Noah Hawley, for sure. He's probably the biggest. Wes Anderson, another biggest, he actually bigger than Noah Hawley. But then someone like Chris Nolan, too, who switches between IMAX and the standard 2:3:9 aspect ratio, which is fine, not as, crazy as we take things, but he's still playing with aspect ratio in certain scenes. And so for us, it gave us this kind of new identity, this new tool that we could play with, and it made our work stand out more. And whenever I watch some of our earlier stuff, pre-aspect ratio revelation, I'm always like, oh, wouldn't this have been awesome in 4:3? Or wouldn't this have been awesome, if I went even smaller with even more widescreen, where it's 4:1 aspect ratio. And so, again, we've played with aspect ratio multiple times, but it was that initial moment when my friend Andrew said, you could have a circle aspect ratio for your movie. That was a moment when everything clicked and the doors blew open, and I realized, oh, this is a new chapter in my in my work. And that was something that really kind of stood out to me. And I'm always going to play with aspect ratio. in anything we do. That's kind of like a staple of mine. Speaking of, just
Yeah.
out of curiosity, maybe
Yeah.
you don't want to say in front of the camera.
Oh, that's fine.
Do we change aspect ratio in The Bell Rings? Because that's your movie.
We don't. It
don't.
is 4:3 though.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I forgive you. No, joke.
It is the superior aspect ratio, at least.
Yeah, I love 4:3. I love
So-
all aspect ratios, actually.
I mean, well, I can't answer for sure if the Bell Rings changes aspect ratio.
It might
There's some
change.
stuff that I haven't finished all the way yet.
That's
and
true.
so there's some sequences that I could absolutely see becoming a different aspect ratio.
Yeah.
You know what? They should be a different aspect ratio.
Yeah.
They probably will.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, anyways, that's just what we wanted to share with you all today. Talking about moments in time in which, we became better filmmakers, for lack of a better word. And that's not to say we're the best filmmakers out there. We still have a whole lot to learn. We're always trying to improve and become better filmmakers. But these are moments we can look back and say, this is when I improved as a filmmaker. For you, it was House. For me, it was when Andrew said, circle good.
Circle
aspect
good,
ratio.
rectangle bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Thank you all for watching our video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it.
Leave a comment if you have a story about something that you learned in filmmaking that kind of changed your view or your perspective on it. Comments help engagement on our videos and let more people see our stuff. So it'd help us out if you give it a like and a share and a comment. All that stuff helps us out.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next video. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you didn't notice, Ethan and I are wearing some new Doomed Productions shirts. That's right, we have an official merch shop now. If you're interested in supporting us further, you can check out some awesome t-shirts, mugs, posters, sweatshirts down there. The link is in the description. Please check it out if you're interested in supporting us further. Thank you, everyone, for watching.